Girisan, welcome to the Payal Nanjiani Leadership Podcast. It is a real honor to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Payal. It's a real pleasure to be part of this. And first of all, congrats for the great work you've been doing, because it's been all your podcasts, I'm sure, as a great repository for the young talent to be developing themselves as great leaders. So thanks a lot for that.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to leaders like you who come up here and share their experience. And I know you have so much of experience. I have not even read half of your bio. So tell us a little bit about yourself if you were to join the dots.
Yeah, so that's going back about 50 years back in life. And it's been an interesting journey, Payal, in terms of started and where I am. To start off, I was born in Kerala, and my father was in the defense, so it was more of a disciplined life. And we were moving across with him, and most of my studies had happened in different parts of the southern India. As far as my professional career is concerned, I started as a medical rep, which is the lowest rank as far as the pharmaceutical sales is concerned. And I've been moving up the ranks and been now as a managing director for Mandarin in India, and responsible for the entire operations for the company in this part of the world. In terms of the whole journey, it's been a very exciting journey with its own ups and downs. Having said that, God has been kind in terms of helping me be amongst great leaders, great professionals, as well as great team members who have helped me achieve what I am. As an individual, I'm a very, I love nature very much, and it helps me to get inspired from the nature, as well as rejuvenate myself in terms of how do I put perspectives to my both professional as well as personal life. I'm a great believer of collaboration, and I very firmly believe that that helps not only to help individuals do better, but also teams and organizations at large to do better. And yeah, it's been an exciting journey, and looking forward for a much more eventful one moving forward.
So you mentioned about the ups and downs, right? So
yeah.
What made you consistently cross those obstacles to become what you are today, like the managing director? How did you cross those obstacles and challenges, which is in all our career lives?
So one of the fundamental things when I look back was pharmaceutical career was not what I wanted to be in. I actually wanted to be in the defense because that's what my upbringing was. So my memory was more about, not about newspaper and milks, but it was more about polishing shoes, polishing the buckles of belts, looking at the jeeps flying around, people parading. So it was more of a disciplined life and physically fit and always agile and stuff. And even if I look flashback, even my faintest memories of when I was in the third or fourth standard was to build a career in defense. And that was what my all aspiration was. And I'd been working significantly towards that particular career, right from 7th standard, getting into NCC and getting my C certificate by I was +2. Because it was always that, okay, once you do NCC, it's an easy entry into the defense. And always I was focusing on that. And after my +2, I got into, I wrote the Defense Academy and exam, passed through it, and then finally came in the medical test. And though for them it was a tick exercise, but then I discovered that I was colorblind. And at that point of time, I thought probably that's something which you can get cured. And I said, okay, what next? So they said, no, this can't be cured, and therefore you can't get into defense. And I said, there must be a cure to it, or there must be something else you could do in defense. So said there are 3 roles in defense which you can with this. One is either be a cook or a barber or a sweeper. I said, no, that's not what I want to be in defense for. And I was completely shattered at that point in time, because all throughout, that's what I had aspired to. And then suddenly the world, I thought that's the end of the world for me. And I literally started crying that day, and it took almost 24 hours for me to be back home. And throughout, I was so, shattered, not even really thinking of what can I do in future. But having said that, while I was reaching closer to home, I realized that, okay, this is the reality. Now, what do you do? This is not under your control, right? And therefore, either you can sit and wind around this whole of your life, or take charge and see what you can do about it.
Right.
And I said, okay, given the situation, what can I do? And then what came across the mind is that of the medical reps whom I knew. So they were also well dressed. At that time, tie was a must for all medical reps, very smart, and appeared to be having a very disciplined life. And most of them had the bullets, which was actually very well maintained, and the nickel of the cylinder was very polished. And so it was very much relating to some way the defense life, which I was thinking of. And then I said, okay, that's something which is interesting, and then probably I can explore that.
Wow.
But then again, when I checked with people, they said, no, you need to have biology as a subject in +2. I said, oh man, I don't have that. Then they said, okay, if not biology, then chemistry is something which you can probably, if you have it, you have an edge. I said, okay, then let me do chemistry. Though chemistry was the subject which I had scored the least marks in my +2, I just went and said, I want to do chemistry. And why? Because I want a medical rep. So it was basically looking at what is under my control, which I can do, which I learned later on that that's basically a significant skill and an art. Because at that point of time, I was just going with the flow, and God was kindful to direct me that way. And by the time the results were out, I was working as a medical rep. So they gave me an appointment letter even before my results were out, saying that it's a conditional that you would get your graduation certificate. And therefore, so that's how primarily, if you look back, that was the first learning in my life, saying that not everything is under your control, but then you can look at what's under your control and focus on doing that bit of it, and the rest of the things will fall in place. So I think that that's one lesson, or one of the things which I carried across my life, and which has helped me to probably reach where I am.
That's excellent.
Long story short.
Girisan, you also spoke about discipline. And I'm a very big advocate of discipline. Like, more than motivation, I believe that if you have discipline in your life, it can take you way ahead. Tell us a little bit about that experience and how you felt that the discipline that you learned from the military background helped you in the corporate life.
See, one of the things is, from a professional life, when you're too busy, you basically don't pay attention to your personal or your physical fitness and stuff, which is very important. So I've been continuing to have the discipline life, waking up early in the morning. It's early to bed, early to rise in a normal situation. Most often I try to put that in practice. And the morning hours is when I actually give time for myself. So while I wake up around 4:30, 4:45, the first 30, 40 minutes is with me and my chai. And that's when I think about, okay, what are the things today I need to be doing? What are the challenges? So it helps me crystallize the whole thoughts. And therefore, by the time I'm in office at 8, I've got a very clear idea of how do I manage that particular day. And I think that helps me to be very structured in the way I want to progress the day, in terms of what are the probable people whom I need to meet with, what are the issues I need to sort out. And it also helps me to leave office by around 4:30. So that I get back home and I have my own personal life, in terms of spending time either with family or with friends, or doing some little bit of more on terms of exercise or reading. So I think the discipline life helped me to not only be successful in terms of my professional point of view, in terms of putting a structure to the way you work and stuff, but also helped me to have a decent personal life and pursue my own passions or hobbies, as I may say.
Wow. So coming to the topic of collaboration, in this age of digitization, what is the future of collaboration that you see?
I think digitalization is going to significantly help collaboration in terms of having greater access to information, having greater access to different teams to interact with and stuff. And one of the significant things which would enable this whole collaboration would be the platforms. So while COVID has significantly helped us to increase the whole digital platforms in terms of collaboration, I think the platforms have evolved a lot in terms of facilitating collaboration, whether it's the Zoom or whether it's the Google Meet and stuff. Now there are so many features which are there which can make it as close as face-to-face interactions, and multiple people at multiple locations being part of it. And therefore, you're able to collaborate with many people. And the simplest example, I would say, of collaboration platform would be WhatsApp. As simple as a group of friends, we want to get together. The ease in terms, you can decide the date, the time, the venue. And even when people reach there, whoever reaches early, how do you order things? By the time people comes, it's all there ready. And once everybody is going back, then the photos are being exchanged. So it's a very simple activity, it might look like, but it so seamlessly helps in terms of collaborating so that everybody is involved in the whole process and there's nobody missed out.
Correct.
Otherwise, in olden days, in terms of you have to call people, you call 10 people, fix up
Yeah.
the date, and time itself will drain off the whole energy. So
Yeah.
one is in terms of platforms, which I very strongly believe helps in terms of changing this whole digitalization, and more platforms could come in. The other piece is thanks to pandemic, the remote working is becoming a norm. I remember my HR head
Yeah.
saying that earlier when we
Very
say
much.
remote working, yeah, earlier my HR head used to say earlier when we used to say remote working, it was a privilege. And now it's basically a right for the
Yeah.
employee. So
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
transformed that way. And and therefore, once you start, when you're forced to, or when you start implementing those remote workings, you obviously need to see how you get platforms in terms of collaborating people.
Right.
And that's where digitalization comes in. So on the fact remote working becomes a fact, digitalization will only help in terms of facilitating that collaboration. So that's another big piece of how digitalization helps in collaboration.
Absolutely. This was
The
so well
other point
pointed
in,
out.
yeah, and another great thing which I see in terms of collaboration because of digitalization is in terms of how companies can co-create, whether it's with customers or whether with competition. So if you look at from a pharmaceutical industry, where I could be able to be more specific in terms of examples to drive this point, in terms of, let's say we've got a disease, I mean, a product for one of the diseases, which is anything related to atopic dermatitis, anything related to skin health, it is very important for the companies to understand what are the issues or the challenges with the patients. And so once you create communities which are more of digital platforms, you can start firsthand hearing to what the patients are undergoing and how do you actually be part of the conversations, help them not only manage the disease through the pills which you give, but also beyond the pills in terms of educating them and helping them understand the diseases are. So there is a good amount of collaboration which the companies can do in this whole space and try to see whether they can improvise their products, whether the formulation can be developed much better, or are there things beyond what the current offerings are which can be developed. And it can be co-created with the patient community and thereby helping to offer better solutions.
Okay.
So
wow.
So that's something which I think how digitalization can help in collaboration. Because otherwise, if digitalization is not there, it would be very difficult to reach out to these patients and understand from them and what it is. So those are spaces where I think digitalization is going to immensely help in terms of the whole collaboration. While there are many other pieces, the only point which I think probably we need to be mindful as organizations while looking at digitalization and collaboration is the personal connect.
Yeah.
And the whole relationship and stuff.
Right. So how do we tap that? How do we tap the personal connect? How do we tap that?
Yeah, so I'll just give an example in terms of the face-to-face meetings. Not everybody comes sharp at the time the meeting starts. There are people who walk into the meeting a little early, and then you have conversations which have got nothing to do with business. You basically say, okay, how is the son doing? Then he says, oh, my son has now started walking, and therefore we're keeping things at a height where he can't reach and stuff like that. And therefore there is that connect which happens, which then gets onto the meeting discussions as well. Because by then you get a feeling that that person understands me and I understand him, and therefore the discussions are much more personal while it's still work related, and it becomes more productive and stuff. Whereas in the digital platform, what happens is the meeting is at 10, it's dot at 10, all the 10 windows open and everybody comes in, and then you straight away jump into the meeting. The meeting discussions are over. And then once it's all over, once the discussion is over, okay, thank you, tuck, 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 all of them vanish.
Correct. Yes.
So I think that's a piece which probably in terms of collaborating through digital, we'll have to really be mindful of in terms of either looking at ways of how do you engage people either prior to the meeting. So probably try to get in a few minutes before and see if people are there and chat. Try to keep your videos on because there is more of a face-to-face. Once you see people, you're basically able to understand even the non-verbal cues and stuff. So I think, and also there are a lot of ways in terms of games and things which you can do other than the meeting space to see how you can engage people. But I think there has to be conscious efforts to build in that personal connect is what I think, which otherwise will just get missed out unless you very consciously put in efforts.
Absolutely, you're right. And I like how you put this entire thing. I mean, that how the personal connect. How we just join and then we just start the meeting and then we end it. I think that was so spot on, Girisan. That was excellent. So, how is collaboration driving leadership these days? What are the leaders, supposed to do, not do, so that they can lead to collaborating not just with their teams, but today, we are global. So even our external stakeholders, our clients are all global. So how is this collaboration driving leadership these days?
See, one of the things in terms of to be a leader is basically to have different perspectives and try to understand where the other people are coming from. And I think collaboration actually helps in that space of trying to understand various points, what people are coming in, and then try to come to a conclusion and stuff. So that's one aspect how collaboration helps in terms of driving leadership. The second is in terms of today's talent who wants to be leaders, they obviously want to be heard.
Yeah.
And once they become part of the decision making, they also understand how decisions are made, and thereby they become better decision makers. And therefore, in terms of a collaboration exercise, you basically ensure that they not only contribute, but they also understand how the decision makings are impacting in terms of results, and thereby they become better decision makers moving forward. So that's another great thing in terms of how collaboration helps in terms of decision making. And collaboration also helps in terms of building the culture of diversity and inclusion, because when you're collaborating, you basically consciously ensure that everybody's opinion is heard. And that's something when people start collaborating, they understand the importance of it. And once they start doing that, that also helps in terms of a leadership skill of trying to consciously get people in, use their skills and develop that. So there are a couple of ways where probably collaboration helps in terms of developing leaders and also helping talent develop in the whole process.
So, with all these things changing, what are the mistakes that leaders are doing or general people are doing when they are trying to build a culture of collaboration? Like you said, now it's a remote work. There is so much of globalization, and you have to still have a personal touch. So, in your experience, what are some of the mistakes you've seen leaders do while they are building this collaborative culture?
So first thing is in terms of bringing in a clear vision and purpose for collaboration. What are we collaborating for? And why is collaboration needed? So I think from a leader, you obviously need to very explicitly say that this is what is the reason why we need to collaborate. Because most often if the vision or the purpose is not there and you say, okay, all of us need to work together, they just get lost in terms of why is that not, because more often I'm very happy in my small cubicle doing what I'm supposed to do, and that's what my expertise is. And now if you want me to collaborate, you obviously need to tell me the reason and the purpose behind that. So that I think is the most important thing. The second, equally important, is to clearly define who is accountable for what.
Okay.
Because when you're collaborating, you're basically saying that I will do this and this is expected from you. And only when everybody does their piece, the whole collaboration work actually happens. And for that, very clear defining of accountability is very important. Because if you're not able to clearly define accountabilities, then it just becomes a whole mess of it. So one, in terms of clearly defining the purpose, and then in terms of making people accountable. And the third is, which is most often ignored, is the psychological safety within the team. Because if we have to collaboratively work, we need to be fearless about the point of views of what we make and share our point of views very without being afraid of being judged or being punished of what I'm saying. And for that, the psychological safety of the team is very important. Each person needs to be safe within the team to express what they want. And that, I think, is significantly undermined in today's situation, because we feel that all are mature adults and therefore they must be saying that. But really, as a leader, it's the responsibility of the leader to ensure that there's a psychological safety which is there. And for that, there has to be a significant trust between the team members, for which there has to be an open communication. So you need to ensure that there are enough of platforms where people are candid in what they're saying, and they are comfortable in saying that because they trust the other person. So I think that's While probably vision and accountability are relatively even more understood and less avoided, but I think the whole thought of building a psychologically safe environment for people to be freely expressing what they are is, in my view, very much undermined, and probably that's what organizations need to be focusing on, and all the more when people are in remote. So it is a big challenge for the organization in terms of building trust, and therefore probably do games and exercises where there is not just work but beyond that in terms of people interact with. They need to understand people as human beings and how as an organization we create that platform.
Absolutely. And I liked how you started with the vision, that first be clear on what you want to collaborate on, because a lot of times we begin to collaborate, we want to build that culture of togetherness, of collaboration, but we just don't know the reason and why we are doing and where it's going to, like what's the reason, what's the outcome that we are expecting. So I like how you started off with that. What would be your advice to people who want to succeed?
That's an interesting question.
So you
In
have
terms
given so many,
of,
but
see,
we
one
want to know
is,
more from you.
yeah, so one clear thing is you need to know why you're doing what you're doing, and how is that going to help you achieve what you want to do in life. So I think the starting point for you to be successful today is to know what success is for you in life. And then see that today what I'm doing, how is it going to connect with what I'm doing in life, what I want to do in life? Because otherwise, today's work comes with a lot of things which you enjoy doing. It also comes with a lot of things which actually piss you off. And therefore, to keep you motivated, move ahead, you need to know what I'm doing today, how is it going to help me achieve what I want to do in life. So that's one thing which I personally believe helps in terms of focusing on what you want to do. The other equally important thing which I have learned over a period of time is, for you to be successful, you need to ensure that the people around you are also successful. And that's very important. And I read an interesting story which my old boss told me, which I think is very pertinent for this, because it looks counterintuitive. If you have to be successful, you help the other person successful, because today's world is all about competitive mindset, right? If I have to be successful, the other person has to fail. Only then I can be better than him, and therefore. So this is an interesting story of a village which was famous for their production of corn. And the village administrative authorities felt that now corn is something which you are very good at, and therefore we need to ensure that we continue to do this and get more and more income out of it. So they introduced an award which was for the farmer who produces the maximum productivity and quality of corn. And over a period of time, it was the same farmer who was winning the award year after year.
Wow.
So there was one journalist who was very inquisitive about this and said, okay, let me try to find out the reason for this success. And he went around and then he dug into the data, and he surprisingly found that it was not only this guy who was winning, but even all the farms adjacent to him were also significantly improving their productivity.
Okay.
While he was number one, the adjacent farms were 2, 3, and 4. And all of them were growing productive and quality corns year after year. So this was something which was very interesting for the journalist. And he went and asked the neighbors, why is this and what's this phenomena? Why is he getting and why are you also all improving? So they said, first year when the award was introduced, this particular farmer won the award. Let's say his name is John. So John won the award. And then for the next year, what he did was he said, my corn has become the most productive one. So I'm giving you seeds of my corn. You can use this for your next year's crop. The other farmers were very skeptical. They said, this guy wants to win the second year also, so he's giving us something which is bad and it will just kill us. So they did not. But there was one farmer who said, okay, let me give it a try. So half of his farm, he used the seeds which John gave, and the rest of it, he used his own seeds. And surprisingly, the next year, John's productivity improved, but this farmer who had used part of his seeds, that portion significantly produced much better corn.
Wow.
And the next year, again, John said, now my productivity is improved. These are much better seeds. I'm still offering it to you. So then slowly and slowly, people started using his seeds, and it was all improving year after year. So journalist was all the more inquisitive. She said, why is this? He should actually be worried about his corn, do productivity, and just keep on producing and do much better in life. So then the journalist said, okay, this must be a very big-hearted guy. And therefore they went to John, journalists went to John and said, John, I heard this story. how come you're such a big-hearted guy and wanting to do good for everybody and stuff? John said, I am least bothered of anybody. I am super selfish. The reason why I'm giving my seeds to them is because if there is a bad corn beside me, during pollination, my crop gets bad. I'm
Wow.
only securing my success by getting around good crops around me.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
that's a very powerful story, which basically says you are helping others. Even if you don't have a great heart, you do it because you're super selfish. It
Absolutely.
helps you to be
Yeah.
better when you're surrounded with successful people. So I
Wow.
think these are two things in terms of aligning with your life as well as helping people to the right and left of you being successful in life.
The story was so impactful, Girisan. I mean, I was so into it and into what you're saying, and I think this is spot on what you said. So those were some very great nuggets, Girisan. Want to move on to our leadership rapid fire round? Okay, so
Sure,
whatever comes to your mind, the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the question, that's what we would love to hear from you.
sure.
Great. What's the one thing you wish you had known at the beginning of your career?
The power of having a mentor, because I realized it very late in life. So it's immense contributions if you can have a mentor in life, early in life.
Very nice. What's your personal mantra or a quote that helps you throughout your day?
It's my own quote, which basically believes that karma always pays you back and life evens out over a period of time.
Yeah, that's very true. In every aspect, professional, personal, just in every aspect.
Yeah,
Um,
everything. Because at any given point of time, you might feel that life is not fair to me, and life will not be fair to you. You should take a small period of time throughout your life. But I'm a very strong believer that over a period of time, life evens out for everybody.
yeah.
What you do comes back to you.
Yeah, I mean, karma is just around the corner, like we say. Okay. The
True.
biggest leadership myth you've ever heard.
Leadership is about being in charge, because leadership is not about being in charge. It is all about taking care of people who are in your
Hmm.
charge.
Yeah,
So you need
absolutely.
not be in charge of everything. Take care of your
I
people.
I resonate with that so much. I teach it in many of my sessions, really. The one thing that motivates you to get off the bed every day.
Every day there is something which helps you address the curiosity which you have in how this world is running.
Okay.
So either it's from people or whether it's in terms of reading or something. So you get your curiosity is being addressed every day. There is something new which, so it is all about waking up and then saying, okay, if there is something more which I would gain today, which will help me explain this whole phenomena which is going around.
Wow. What is your favorite part of being a leader?
Yeah, and it's always about helping people in terms of achieving what they want to do in life.
Hmm.
And therefore, whether it's inspiring, motivating, guiding, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, if people achieve what they want to do in life and you're part of it, it's definitely great. And I think that's what most of the leaders do for sure.
So you like to empower people, like you said, empower the people to work more towards the result.
Yeah, so they would do it, because end of the
Yeah.
day, the people around us are great people. You
Yes.
just need to give them the right environment to flourish.
Yeah, I mean that is so correct. Everyone. I usually say this in most of my sessions that everyone who comes in the organization, who joins the organization, comes with some greatness, and it's on us as leaders to
True.
actually recognize that greatness and bring it out in them. So that's so spot on. Which superpower would Girisan choose? Invisibility or mind reading?
Mind reading,
I
because
would
not
love to
always
know
what
why.
people say is what is there in the mind.
That is nice. If you could change one thing about the corporate world and go back in time, what would you change about it?
Shifting the focus from profitability to impacting lives and society at large.
Mm, nice, more towards that. Well,
I
great.
understand profits are important, but
Uh-huh.
if the whole objective is in terms of impact, yeah, the objective is more about impacting lives, profits will definitely follow.